The first new feature from Genero 2.4 I'm going to show you is aggregate columns. With the earlier versions of Genero, developers would sometimes go to great efforts to make sure that their total columns lined up with the values associated with the total. The problem was when they come to run that application, as we can see here, the total does not line up with the values, even though that's what they've attempted to do in the form. Some clever developers found tricks to make the total line up underneath, but those tricks would fall down as soon as the end user came along and moved columns around, resized columns, or hid columns. As you would have seen there, the total no longer lines up with the associated values. So in Genero 2.40 we introduced the concept of the aggregate. So you can see in this program I've got a total lining up with my columns, and if I drag the columns around, resize them, the total stays associated with its associated values. You can choose to either allow the total to be calculated automatically or some other sum such as minimum, maximum or average, or you can choose to calculate the total yourself. Why you'd want to do that? Well, maybe you've got some rounding rules as to what to do with half-cent values. Do you round them up or do you round them down? By calculating the total yourself, you have control over those type of rules. With the aggregate totals, you can also associate a style to be used when rendering the total. So in this case, I've made it bold and the font slightly bigger. And you can also associate some text to be displayed with the total. In this case, order total. If we want to see how the aggregate is defined in the .per, see this field F06. This is our aggregate, so it's an aggregate widget type, and I've associated the text to be associated with that total. So you can see there it's lining up with the associated columns and has the aggregate specified. If I was to look at that in a 4FD, here is our edit column, and the aggregates are simply a list of properties associated with that column. So the new aggregate columns widgets that have been introduced in Genero 2.40 are a great way of making your application look more modern in a GUI environment, because your totals now line up with the corresponding figures.